On this topic, could we push Napier City Council, push Mayor Dalton's
in the same
submission
direction. Yep.
Aside on the basis that it's inappropriate to deal with it until the local government reorganisation issues.
I think that was picked up at the same time as the Sport Hawks Bay. That
was
all
it
that regional
in
funding,
the resolution?
That the issue around regional function not be considered until after the.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
what else have we got under others?
Tourism and relationships with wildlife. And then,
Have we got any other? Have we done? No, we haven't.
Looks like it.
Yeah. The internal submissions, can we come back to those? Yep, could we come back please to the internal submissions? Now that you've heard all the submissions, if we go to the start of our agenda. We've discussed them all, so it's actually coming to decision making around these. There's no other information that was needed there, is there? I think we've covered all them.
agenda you're referring to?
This is on your agenda item page, starting on.
Agenda item 5,
page 3.
Madam Chair, there was also the extra expenditure from the...
That's one we need to deal with.
Yes.
Go straight to that one first, please. That's the on
page 5.
5. If we could have a look at that one, that's the Governance and Community Engagement Project 876. On the, we now have a proposal in front of us. No doubt there will be a poll. And we have to fund it.
Yeah.
So,
Funded.
Be funded within existing budgets? No effect on the rates?
Well, through you, Madam Chair, 50,000 as it's the other 25 that we're saying, well, maybe the contingency should be increased. And at the moment, we haven't got confirmation whether our share is 75. It's certainly at least 75, maybe more.
No, not all of it. 50,000 of it can be, but there will need to be at least another 25,000.
It's I won't say it's a waste of money because it'll be good to get it out of the way, but it's a damn shame to have to go into a year with no contingency budget.
it is, I was going to ask the staff around that, and perhaps that's your question. How do we manage when we now have no contingency funding? Do we need to up the contingency funding budget?
Madam Chair, if we increase, in fact, it would give us a feeling of comfort to do that, of course. But if we do, then that would be funded through rates. So that'd be, if we left it intact and put the whole 75 in, rates would go up another 0.2 to 2.5. So it'll go to 4.1 or 4.15.
I think we just have to bite the bullet and accept it.
Are you moving then
Yes,
that
I will.
the provision is to use the contingency funding for 50,000 and to increase funding by a further 25,000?
Yes.
I'll second that in the spirit of bipartisanship.
Right, do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Dick? Councillor Belford? Does anyone else wish to speak to that? Right, and I'll put the motion then. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. If we can come back please to the carry forwards. I think the easiest thing, do you want to take them one at a time? Or can we take them on
Page
block?
3. Page 3.
You've got,
Sustainable land management, 120,000.
can we do them all at once?
Right, easier to do them one at a time. Right, we've had all the information on that. Is anyone prepared to move the, I'll take them one at a time for clarity. Project 380, Sustainable Land Management, carry forward of 120,000. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Wilson, thank you. Councillor Pipe, thank you. Do you wish to speak to that? Councillor Pipe? Does anyone wish to speak to that? In which case, I will put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right, project 320, surface water quality. Surface water quantity, carry forward of 27,000. Do I have a mover for that one? Councillor Wilson, thank you. Councillor Graham, thank you. Do you wish to speak to that? In which case I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Carried. Project 339, regional land science, which is a carry forward of 231. Do I have a mover for that one? Thank you, Councillor Pipe, a seconder. Councillor Bevan, thank you very much. Do you wish to speak to that, either of you?
No, we had the discussion earlier on was it Monday, wasn't it? So the discussion was had then, and I put ticks beside them because obviously there was general agreement that we couldn't move without doing this.
Councillor Bevan?
It's an essential part of the tank process. We can't not allocate these funds.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? In which case I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. And air quality monitoring, a carry forward of 76,000. I'll have a mover for that. Councillor Wilson, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Graham. Does anyone wish to speak to it? In which case I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Right, is that all the internal?
That's,
Did we did the technical capital,
Yeah,
did
did all
we?
Yeah, we
that.
did, we
just
did
the
gotta
tech-
maybe move the final recommendation.
we did the technical
Yeah.
science,
The
then
other
we
day.
correct.
Final recommendation is
Yeah. Over
this one.
this one here.
See if it has.
Page
Oh,
8.
here.
Yeah.
Page 8.
Well, it needs to be changed because we've considered,
Yep,
so what should be receives and approves.
yeah.
Right, rewording of the motion on page 8, receives and approves council's internal submissions. Moved Councillor Dick. Councillor Pipe, thank you very much. We've had the discussion, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Right, next one, I think we should move to perhaps the Māori relationships, which is quite extensive.
Sure.
Okay, we'll move to, this is one of the ticket items under the Big Six that was considered, the relationship with Māori. The staff responses in the bigger document are in attachment 14, page 231, and in the smaller document are on
Page 30.
page 30. This is a fairly complex one, and we may have to take it in bites, but if I can get some of the issues up, because it's both the resourcing within council and funding requests. So who's
Right.
going to lead this?
Me, thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, dealing with the resourcing within council, which was initially raised through a presentation from representatives from the Māori Committee several months, and actually before Christmas, and around some internal staff resourcing being provided to council to support our tangata whenua engagement processes. We have made provision in the long-term plan for a person with expertise around cultural values in the resource management planning area. So that position, we're currently trying to fill that position. And as I said, the funding's already been made available for that. But the second tranche, really, if you like, or the other part of the equation was actually around having someone, and it came up in several of the submissions over the last few days. It's come up about actually having a go-to person within council who the members of the Māori community can actually know that that's a person to go and talk to, and likewise staff within council know that that's a person perhaps to go to and talk to if they need some advice themselves. And the long-term plan has not made specific financial provision for that. One of the things that we do have, though, is we do have some external expenditure set aside, and it's it's under this Strategic Alliances project that I talked about a few minutes ago, and it's for the active involvement of council in negotiations and resolution of resource management redress for Treaty of Waitangi claimant groups. Now, we have not had any significant drawdown of those particular funds or for those purposes in the last couple of years. There has been some expenditure, don't get me wrong, but not anything of any significance, and we are nearly through the actual treaty claimant processes within Hawke's Bay now anyway. So one of the things that I've thought about when I was considering these submissions was perhaps if you would consider reallocating that funding, so it'll be cost neutral in terms of the general rates, but it would move from being an external expenditure to council being able to provide an internal resource for...
Can I just ask, if I recall correctly, you said before the current year, the allocation in that area was 120 and it's gone down to 76.
Oh, that was for the iwi. Sorry, yes, yeah.
So of the 120 in the current year, how much is unspent?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I'm sorry, I can't. I'd have to go and look it up. We have adjusted that through the reforecasting provisions. So that's why I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
Through you, Madam Chair, last time I looked at that was about a month ago. There was about 46,000 spent, so there isn't an awful lot left.
So, Madam Chair, did you say that we've already allocated resource for a Maori sort of advisory staff person or planner or something?
For someone to work in the planning area to look at more specifically at, among other things, cultural values, but to provide some more technical support, which is also, what's been asked for by regional planning committee members too.
And that would be a person with planning qualifications?
Yes.
And is that position been filled?
Not yet, no. But
it's
part of the reason is that Helen's away, and so we haven't.
But it's in current budget.
It's been provided for, yes.
And it's rolled
it'll be
through.
filled as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So this what I'm talking about now is a different position. Yeah. It's much more of a liaison role.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. But could I also foreshadow that if in fact we end up making a significant increase in the Hawke's Bay Tourism Grant, that I would be proposing that a suitably qualified person be appointed to the board of directors to represent Maori tourism interests.
So I haven't really discussed that part of it, the tourism aspect of it within this officer's report. But one of the main reasons that led me towards this recommendation was also looking at the list of requests that have been made for a number of activities and a variety of sums of money as well. And there's quite clearly a demand for some of that. But really, I think what that's saying to me is that we need help. We need somebody actually that can work with these, with the groups, with the or with the tai whenua, wherever the requests are coming from, to have a much better understanding of what the needs are and what the priorities are, so that this person could actually, their first role would be to really work their way through these particular requests and look at what could be done.
In that regard, are you still talking about this senior management planning person, or are you talking about...
Sorry, the liaison.
So we're talking about two people.
Position, yeah. So if you park to one side the
so you've allowed for one.
Yes,
which
so
is
one's already been allowed for.
But you haven't allowed for the second.
Correct, yeah. So what I'm suggesting is that this person could, if you are not of a mind to increase the rates, would this person or this role could be funded. It would probably not be a full-time role, but it would certainly be a significant part-time role could be funded from what's currently external expenditure that's been set aside for active discussion.
How quickly can you two establish how much money there is available for that role? And that's only for 1 year,
No, we
isn't
only
it?
talked about 15, 16, so it is available in 15, 16. 76, isn't it?
Yeah, so the money is in that, currently identified as external expenditure in project 874 for 2015-16, so it's available now.
And it flows on through the plan?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
So that's the entire 75,000 of the strategic alliance money going into partly fund one position or funding one part-time position fully.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
You could use that for year one and then maybe up it to full-time position in year two.
Impact on plan.
Can I just ask, what sort of things would then be missing out if that 75,000 was used up the Strategic Alliances project or Strategic Alliance funding?
So things like, if we've had if we've had requests for funding assistance for the development of Hapu management plan, for example, that kind of activity has come out of this fund. We've had, other work done around or made a contribution towards the assessment of cultural values around some of the planning work that's been done as well. So most of it's come out of the planning budget, but some of it has come directly out of the Strategic Alliance. So those kind of activities are what would miss out, if you like.
All Māori,
Pardon?
all Māori issues, or all projects?
These ones,
No,
yeah.
the ones you mentioned, not necessarily.
Yes,
Not necessarily.
but there's a Maori component to them. Yes, yeah.
Councillor Wilson.
Just to remind councillors that the group that we've formed to look at committee structures, etc., hasn't actually met yet. But if there was a refocus on how we dealt with, for example, the Māori committee, who knows what that looks like going forward as far as funding goes. So I think if you could find a way internally, well, my question to the Chief Executive, more appropriately, is if you could find a way internally to fund a position, would it not be fair to expect that at some stage there may be yet more funding that could be reallocated in that particular space around Māori engagement?
Councillor Barker, question?
Questions, I know you said on questions. The question is, are we seriously considering the establishment of a position in this area? Are we considering establishing a position initially part-time with the possibility of going to full-time? And if that's the case, won't that have a significant impact on the type of nature of people who will apply? That if you advertised a position which was part-time and people looking for full-time jobs, they might not apply. And if there were people who applied to a part-time job, might not be able to take a full-time job later. It seems to me that we're getting ourselves caught between two chairs. The other element I'm concerned about here is, are we contemplating advertising a job and funding a job for which we haven't really put a lot of thought into what the job description is? And I would have thought the job description for this would have been critical, because if we don't have a job description, then the expectations on the person from Māoridom will be extensive, and will they be in a position to cope with that, particularly if we're starting the part-time job? And on the other side, the expectations of people going to the person for advice will be extensive as well. And I'm just worried that the thinking here, I like the direction, but I have an underlying feeling that our thinking isn't as clear as it needs to be for this. This will be a challenging position for anybody.
Councillors, I'm actually going to break now for afternoon tea, because I'd actually like to get some figures up there. There's a lot of requests around this. It's quite a complex issue. And I'd like to be absolutely clear what the funding streams are for the positions on council. And then we've got to address some of those other issues around that, such as helping to resource Marae to be able to deliver at Matatini. I mean, that's a common request that's come through, but we've actually got no idea the size of the problem or where or how it could be funded. So if we stop and have a short break now, we'll see if we can get some figures up there and get some idea of the extent of this request. Thank you.